You walked into the gym today and immediately compared yourself to someone else. Their physique, their weights, their progress, their effortless performance compared to your grinding struggle. And in that single comparison, you handed your entire training, motivation, over to someone who does not know you exist. Epictetus, a man who had every possible reason to compare his circumstances to those around him, discovered the most liberating truth in the history of human performance. Comparison is always voluntary, and it is always a choice to suffer. Today, we break it down in 5 minutes. Epictetus opened the Enchiridion with the distinction that dissolves comparison completely. He said, "Some things are within our power, while others are not. Within our power are opinion, motivation, desire, aversion. Not within our power are our body, reputation, office, and everything that is not our own doing. Other people's physiques, not within your power. Other people's strength numbers, not within your power. Other people's progress rate, not within your power. Other people's genetics, starting point, and training history, not within your power." The moment you compare yourself to another athlete, you are investing your mental energy, the only currency you actually control, into a category that is completely outside your power to influence. This is not just philosophically incorrect. It is strategically catastrophic, because every unit of mental energy spent comparing yourself to another athlete is one less unit available for the training in front of you. The comparison does not improve your performance. It cannot. The other athlete's progress has zero bearing on your capacity, zero bearing on your potential, zero bearing on whether this rep will be executed with full effort or half effort. For the Stoic athlete, the comparison antidote is the dichotomy applied in real time. The moment comparison arrives, ask one question: is this within my power? The answer is always no. Then return your attention to the only thing that is. This rep, this set, this session, your training, your progress, your potential. Epictetus never compared his chains to the freedom of those around him. He focused entirely on what was within his power, his philosophy. That focus made him free despite the chains. Your focus on your own training will make you free despite the comparisons. Epictetus wrote, "First say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do." What you would be, not what they are, what you would be. He defined progress as movement toward your own philosophical ideal, not as positioning relative to anyone else's position. The only comparison that serves the Stoic athlete is the comparison between who you are today and who you were yesterday. Are you stronger than last week? More consistent than last month? More disciplined than last year? More philosophically grounded in your training than when you began? These comparisons are entirely within your power. They measure the only variable that actually matters: your own development. They generate information that is actionable, feedback that directly guides your next training decision. The comparison to another athlete generates none of this. It measures a variable outside your power. It produces information that is not actionable. It generates either false comfort, you are doing better than them, so you relax, or destructive discouragement, you are doing worse, so you despair. Neither serves your training. Neither moves you toward the athlete you are trying to become. For the Stoic athlete, replace every external comparison with one internal question. Am I better than I was? In any specific measurable way, one thing. Name it. That question generates progress. External comparison generates suffering. Choose accordingly. Epictetus wrote, "Seek not that the things which happen should happen as you wish, but wish the things which happen to be as they are." He was describing acceptance, the release of the gap between what is and what you wish were true. Comparison creates the largest possible version of that gap. You look at another athlete and create in your mind a vivid image of what you wish you were, their physique, their performance, their progress. Then you look at yourself and experience the full weight of the gap between that wish and your current reality. That gap is not motivating. It is demoralizing because it measures you against someone else's journey. Someone with different genetics, different history, different starting point, different life circumstances, and finds you lacking. The cost of comparison in training is specific and measurable. It steals your joy. The training session that was going well before the comparison feels inadequate after it. The progress that was genuinely significant becomes invisible next to someone else's more visible progress. It drives wrong decisions. The athlete comparing weights adds more than their body is ready for. The athlete comparing physiques trains aesthetics over function. The athlete comparing progress rates changes programs before any program has had time to work. It destroys consistency. The comparison that produces discouragement produces skipped sessions. The skipped sessions slow the progress that was already slower than the comparison target. The slower progress produces more discouragement. The cycle is complete. Epictetus paid zero cost for comparison because he engaged in it 0 times. He had nothing to prove to anyone around him. His standard was entirely internal. Build yours the same way. The internal standard costs nothing. The external comparison costs everything. Epictetus wrote, "Never say about anything I have lost it, but I have returned it." He was describing the liberation that comes from releasing attachment to things outside your control. When you release the comparison, when you genuinely stop measuring your training against anyone else's, something extraordinary happens. The training becomes yours again, completely, without qualification. The joy that comparison was stealing returns. Not because your progress has changed, because you are no longer measuring it against a standard that has nothing to do with you. The decisions become clearer. You train what your body needs, not what would close the gap to someone else's performance. You use the weight that serves your development, not the weight that matches someone else's lift. You follow the program that fits your life, not the program that someone else is using. The consistency improves because you are training for something real, your own development, rather than for the impossible goal of matching someone whose entire training history is different from yours. Epictetus was completely free despite his chains, because his standard was entirely his own. Nobody else's opinion of his progress had any power over his philosophical development. Your training is yours. Your progress is yours. Your potential is yours. Stop handing it to other people through comparison. Train for yourself. Only for yourself. Every single session, Epictetus was a slave surrounded by free people. He had every reason to compare his circumstances to theirs. He never did, because he understood that comparison is always voluntary, and that voluntary suffering is the only kind a Stoic ever accepts. Here are his 4 principles of comparison for the Stoic athlete. 1. Comparison is outside your power. Every unit of mental energy spent comparing is one less unit for your actual training. Return to what is within your power immediately. 2. Your only valid comparison is yesterday's version of yourself. Am I better than I was? One specific thing. That question serves you. All other comparisons do not. 3. Comparison costs joy, decisions, and consistency. It steals all 3 simultaneously. The internal standard costs nothing and builds all 3. 4. Train for yourself only. Your training is yours. Your progress is yours. Your potential is yours. Stop handing it to other people through comparison. Epictetus was free because he trained his mind for himself alone. Train your body the same way. This is Stoic athlete. Train your body, master your mind, compare to none. Scoos for a new video every week. Epictetus is waiting.